My stepson said, "You're not my real dad. I don't have to listen to you anymore." I backed off and let his mother handle discipline. 3 years later, when he got arrested and she couldn't afford bail, he called me crying from jail asking for help. My name's Daniel. I'm 42, male. I married my wife, Melissa, when her son Ryan was 10. That was 12 years ago. I don't have any biological kids, so Ryan became my world by default. At first, it felt like we were actually building something close to a real father-son bond. He'd sit next to me in the garage while I worked on my old Chevy, ask a million questions about tools and engines. We'd toss a football in the backyard. I went to his little league games, clapped too loudly, embarrassed him in that way dads are supposed to. But it was complicated from the start. His real dad, Mike, was in and out of the picture. The kind of guy who'd promise Ryan a weekend trip and then not show up. Melissa would try to cover for him. "Your dad's just busy, honey." But I saw the cracks forming in Ryan's heart. That's when I started stepping up. I thought maybe if I filled the gaps, the boy would see me as more than just mom's husband. For a while, it worked. But adolescence changes everything. When Ryan hit 13, it was like someone flipped a switch. The boy who used to run into the house yelling, "Danny, come see this," started locking himself in his room. He rolled his eyes at me, stopped laughing at my corny jokes. The one thing I couldn't compete with was blood. Mike started swooping in again, showing up with flashy gifts. A dirt bike, a PS5, expensive sneakers. Things I couldn't match without draining our savings. And that's when it happened. One night Ryan was mouthing off to his mom, swearing at her because she told him to do his homework before playing video games. I stepped in. Not screaming, not even harsh. Just told him, "Hey, knock it off. Don't talk to your mother that way." He turned to me with this cold, bitter stare I'd never seen in his eyes before and said, "You're not my real dad. I don't have to listen to you anymore." It was like a knife. Melissa froze. I just stood there, heart hammering like I'd been punched in the chest. And he didn't stop there. He doubled down, raising his voice. "You're just some guy mom married. My real dad doesn't treat me like a child." I backed off. That was the moment I decided to stop playing the role I'd been breaking myself to fill. Melissa handled the discipline from then on. If he wanted to slam doors, sneak out, scream at her, fine. I swallowed my pride and let her deal with it. She told me later I should give him space because teenagers are cruel sometimes. But the truth? That one sentence hollowed something out in me. From that day, every time Ryan got in trouble, I stepped aside. If he skipped school, Melissa handled the calls. If he got caught shoplifting gum, Melissa bailed him out with a lecture. I stopped trying to be the wall he pushed against, because all I could hear, over and over, was his voice spitting, "You're not my real dad." I told myself I was done trying. But deep down, I still cared. After that night, the distance between us turned into a canyon. Ryan didn't just ignore me. He went out of his way to make me feel like an intruder in my own house. He'd slam cabinets if I was in the kitchen, mutter insults under his breath when he walked past me, sometimes loud enough to make sure I heard, "Loser, wannabe dad." And Melissa? She'd beg me not to react. "He's just a kid, Daniel. Don't give him more reasons to hate you." So I bottled it up. But bottling it up didn't stop the escalation. Ryan started sneaking out. I'd hear the window slide open at 2 a.m. and see his shadow sprinting across the lawn. I'd tell Melissa, and she'd confront him the next morning, but it always ended the same. Shouting match, Ryan storming off, Melissa crying at the kitchen table. By 15, he wasn't just sneaking out. He was coming home wasted. One time I found him passed out in the driveway with a half-empty vodka bottle. I carried him inside, laid him on the couch, and Melissa lost it on me for being too rough when I set him down. Like the problem was my tone, not the fact her son could have choked on his own vomit. The final straw for me came when Ryan smashed my truck windshield. My old Chevy, the same one we used to work on together. I came home from work one night and found the glass spiderwebbed, shards glittering across the hood. Ryan was sitting on the porch, arms crossed, smirking. "Accidents happen," he said. Melissa gasped like she couldn't believe he'd done it. But when I demanded he pay for repairs, she shut me down. "He's just acting out. Don't make this worse." So I didn't. I swallowed the anger, paid for the repairs myself, and put up thicker walls around my heart. By 16, Ryan was skipping school so often the principal threatened expulsion. Melissa begged me to step in, to talk to him man to man, but I refused. I reminded her of his words. I'm not his real dad. That was the job of Mike, the biological father who swooped in for birthdays and Instagram photos but vanished when things got ugly. Except Mike never showed up for the real problems. Not once. Not when Ryan was caught shoplifting headphones at the mall. Not when Melissa got called to the ER because Ryan had gotten into a fight and walked away with a broken nose. Every single time it was Melissa dragging herself to fix things, me standing in the background with my arms crossed, biting my tongue bloody. I thought maybe, eventually, Ryan would hit bottom and learn something. But instead, he doubled down. The drinking got heavier, the fights nastier, the lies sharper. By 17, he wasn't just Melissa's problem anymore. He was a wrecking ball waiting to smash through everything around him. And I knew it was only a matter of time before he went too far. Don't forget to subscribe. Ryan turned 17 and the house felt like a battlefield. Every week was another explosion. First, it was the neighbors. One Saturday morning, Mrs. Jenkins from across the street knocked on our door, holding up a spray-painted garden gnome. Your son thinks vandalism is funny. Ryan stood behind her, arms crossed, daring me to react. Melissa apologized over and over, promised to pay for damages. Ryan just smirked like it was all a big joke. Then came the parties. Twice Melissa got calls at work to come pick him up from house parties that got busted. Once I went with her. We pulled up to flashing blue lights, drunk teenagers staggering into the night. Ryan was sitting on the curb, wrists cuffed, cursing out the officer. The cop recognized Melissa from church, cut him loose with a warning. I remember Ryan sneering at me when I got back in the car. See? Nothing happens. The worst was when he stole Melissa's credit card, charged almost $900 buying sneakers, video games, and God knows what else online. Melissa confronted him in the kitchen, shaking with rage, but Ryan towered over her, red in the face, and screamed until she cried. He punched a hole in the drywall just inches from her head. I was standing in the doorway, fists clenched, but Melissa shot me a look, a desperate plea. Don't step in. So I didn't. I walked away while my wife crumpled into tears, and that guilt still gnaws at me. By then, the police knew his name. School security knew his face. He was skating on thin ice, but he acted untouchable. Why wouldn't he? Every time Melissa bailed him out. Every time she found a way to excuse it. The breaking point came late one night. Around 1 a.m., I woke to the sound of tires screeching outside. Looked through the window and saw our mailbox smashed flat. Ryan's friend's car parked crooked with the engine smoking. Melissa's phone buzzed seconds later. Ryan calling. She rushed out in her robe. I stayed inside, staring at the wreck like it was a prophecy coming true. That was the night I stopped wondering if he'd get arrested. It was just when. And when came only a few months later. Melissa's phone rang while we were eating dinner. She answered, went pale, then dropped her fork. It's Ryan. He's at the county jail. I didn't ask what for. I didn't need to. I just leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, while Melissa scrambled for her purse. She begged me to come with her. I refused. He'd made his choice 3 years ago when he said I wasn't his dad. That night, Ryan learned what consequences actually look like. Ryan's arrest was no small thing. Melissa came back from the jail around 3 in the morning, mascara streaked down her cheeks, clutching paperwork like it was a death sentence. Grand theft auto, she whispered. I thought she was joking. But no, Ryan had stolen a neighbor's car with 2 of his buddies, gone joyriding, and crashed it into a guardrail. Nobody was killed, thank God, but there was property damage, drugs in the car, and all 3 of them were 17, barely under 18. Melissa told me the bail was set at $5,000. She didn't have it. We'd been struggling already, especially after Ryan drained her credit card, and she looked at me across the table with those pleading eyes. Daniel, I don't know what to do. I said nothing. Just stared at her, remembering the smashed windshield, the spray-painted gnome, the vodka bottle, the hole in the drywall. Every warning sign. every chance he had to turn it around. And the one sentence that had defined everything since, "You're not my real dad." Melissa called Mike, the biological dad. He didn't answer. She left voicemail after voicemail, text after text. But he ghosted. That's when reality cracked her open. She realized she was truly alone in this. 2 days later, my phone rang at work. I almost didn't answer. But when I did, I heard it. Ryan's voice, small and broken, trembling through the collect call system from county jail. "Danny, please. I need help. Please come get me out." For a moment, I just listened. This was the same kid who spat in my face for years, who laughed as he tore our lives apart, now sobbing because the world finally bit back. I took a deep breath. "Ryan, you need to talk to your mother. She's the one handling this." There was a long silence, then a choked sob. "She can't. She doesn't have the money. Dad won't answer. You're the only one. Please." That's when it hit me. He hadn't called me because he respected me. He'd called me because I was his last option. I told him the words that had been burning a hole in my chest for 3 years. "Ryan, I'm not your real dad, remember?" And then I hung up. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. I posted this in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep, and I woke up to hundreds of comments, DMs, even a few people calling me everything from a monster to a saint. Some of y'all are savage. One guy said, "Don't bail him out, let him rot. County Orange looks good on ungrateful brats." Another person DM'd me a full-on stepdad manifesto about how I abandoned my post years ago, and this is my fault too. That one stung, not gonna lie. But the overwhelming response? People saying I finally set a boundary, that I wasn't wrong to hang up, that it's not about revenge, it's about consequences. And honestly, reading that hit me hard because for years I thought I was weak for backing off. Turns out, maybe I was just done being the punching bag. Here's what's happened since that call. Melissa has been spiraling. She called every relative she could think of, trying to scrape together bail. Nobody wanted to touch it. Her sister told her flat out, "You've enabled him for years. This is what happens." Brutal, but true. Ryan's been calling me nonstop from jail. 3 voicemails just yesterday. Crying, begging, promising he'll change. I don't even recognize his voice. It's shaky, high-pitched, panicked. This is the kid who used to swagger around our house like he was untouchable. Now he sounds like a scared little boy. And I won't lie, part of me wanted to give in, to drive down there, pay the bail, and bring him home just so Melissa could breathe again. But then I played one of his messages back, and all I could hear was his voice from 3 years ago, spitting venom. "You're not my real dad. I don't have to listen to you anymore." So no, I'm not bailing him out. Not this time. Melissa is furious at me. We've barely spoken in 2 days. She says I'm being cruel, holding on to a grudge when a kid's future is on the line. But here's the thing. Ryan's not a kid anymore. He's 17, almost an adult, and this isn't spray paint or a broken windshield. This is grand theft auto and drugs. This is real life. And if he wants to start treating me like a dad again now, after years of disrespect, he's going to have to learn that dads don't just hand out get-out-of-jail-free cards. Sometimes they let you sit there and think about what you've done. Melissa's anger turned into desperation fast. By the end of that week, she was pawning jewelry, maxing out her last credit card, anything to scrape together the bail. She managed half the amount, but not all of it. That's when Ryan called again. I picked up this time, mostly to end the cycle of voicemails. His voice cracked the second he heard me. "Danny, please, I'm going crazy in here. I'll do anything. Just get me out." It was surreal, hearing him cry like that. This was the same kid who used to sneer at me like I was beneath him. Now he was begging like a child lost in a mall. I said one thing. "Actions have consequences, Ryan. You wanted me out of your life. Well, now I'm out." Then I hung up. That should have been the end of it. But Ryan didn't take it quietly. He called Melissa next, screaming and sobbing so loud I could hear it through her phone from the other room. "You're useless. You can't even get me out of here," he shouted. And then, this was the kicker. "Why won't Daniel help me? He's supposed to be my dad." Melissa froze when she heard that. She looked at me like the ground had shifted beneath her. For 3 years, she'd defended every outburst, excused every meltdown. And now, when the walls closed in, Ryan admitted the truth he'd spat on, that he saw me as his dad when it mattered. Melissa didn't say it out loud, but I could see the realization breaking her apart. She'd covered for him, shielded him, sacrificed for him, and now she was the one he blamed. The next day, she asked me quietly if I'd at least visit Ryan in jail. "He needs to see your face," she said, "even if you don't post bail." I agreed. Not for Ryan's sake, but for hers. The county jail smelled like bleach and fear. When Ryan walked into the visiting room in that orange jumpsuit, his cocky swagger was gone. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale. He sat down across from me, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean what I said back then." I leaned forward. "You did mean it, and I believed you. That's why I stopped trying. You didn't want me as your dad, so I let you have what you wanted." He broke down sobbing, pressing his forehead against the glass. For the first time in years, he looked like that 10-year-old boy who used to sit in my garage asking questions about spark plugs. And that's when the idea of my revenge, the sweet, symbolic kind, started to form. Because Ryan wanted me to swoop in and save him. He wanted me to undo years of disrespect with one signature on a bail form. But I was going to show him what "not my real dad" really meant. 2 days after that jail visit, Melissa sat me down at the kitchen table. Her face was gray from exhaustion. "He keeps calling me, Daniel, begging, screaming. I can't take it anymore. Please, just help him." I looked her dead in the eye. "Melissa, I tried to be his father. He made his choice. And now, so am I." That night, while she slept, I went into the garage. On the workbench was a box I hadn't touched in years. Photos, ticket stubs, little mementos from when Ryan still cared about me. I sifted through it until I found what I was looking for. The framed photo of us at his first baseball game. He was grinning, holding a foul ball we'd caught together. That photo had been sitting on his nightstand for years, until the day he shoved it in my face and said, "You're not my real dad. I don't need this fake crap." I'd kept it anyway. The next morning, I took that photo to the county jail. When Ryan sat down on the other side of the glass, I slid the frame across to the guard and nodded. They let him hold it. He stared at it like it was radioactive. His lip trembled. "I remember that day," he whispered. I leaned forward. "So do I. That was the day I thought I'd actually become your dad. And this," I tapped the glass, "this is the day you learn what happens when you burn people who love you." He begged again. "Please, just bail me out. I'll change, I swear." That's when I stood up, slow and deliberate. I left the photo sitting in his hands. "I'm not your real dad, Ryan, so don't call me when you need one." And I walked out. Melissa was waiting in the car. She asked what I said. I told her the truth. I gave him what he asked for. I'm out. Ryan stayed in jail another 3 weeks until Melissa's sister finally scraped together enough for bail. By then, the damage was done. His friends had parents waiting at the courthouse. Ryan had me walking away. And here's the part that still feels like poetic justice. Word spread through school, through our neighborhood. Everyone knew Ryan's stepdad had left him to sit in a cell while his mom begged. His own bravado, "You're not my real dad," came back like a ghost to haunt him. He'd wanted distance. I gave it to him. Permanently. Update 2. Didn't think I'd be back here, but holy hell, the fallout has been worse, and stranger, than I expected. First off, some of you were brutal in the comments on my last post. One person wrote, "Damn, you just delivered the coldest stepdad mic drop in history." Another said I was mentally torturing a kid who just needed love. Funny how half the internet thinks I'm Satan and the other half wants to buy me a beer. Here's what's happened since. Ryan's out now. Melissa's sister bailed him after 3 miserable weeks. And apparently those 3 weeks broke him in ways no lecture or punishment ever could. He came home gaunt, jumpy, and quiet. His cocky smirk? Gone. Instead, he tiptoes around the house like a stranger. Won't even meet my eyes. Melissa told me he asked her, "Why didn't Daniel come for me?" She didn't know what to say. For years, she'd shielded him from every consequence, made me the bad guy just by standing back. Now he's turning the same question on her, and it's tearing her apart. And here's the kicker. Ryan hasn't called Mike once, his real dad, the guy who vanished the second things got hard. Not a single call, not a single text. It's like the curtain finally dropped and Ryan saw him for what he is. Absent. Useless. Meanwhile, I'm the ghost he can't stop looking over his shoulder for. Do I feel guilty? A little. But mostly, I feel free. For the first time in years, I'm not tangled up in his chaos. I drew a line, and I didn't back down. Some of you told me revenge would feel hollow. Maybe you're right. It's not fireworks in the sky satisfying. But watching Ryan hold that photo in jail, begging the man he once rejected to save him, that was the closure I didn't know I needed. Melissa and I, well, that's a mess of its own. She says she understands why I did it, but I can see the cracks in her eyes. She's grieving the son she thought she had, the father figure she thought I'd keep trying to be. But me? I'm done trying. Ryan's release didn't mean peace. It meant tension thick enough to choke on. The first night he was home, Melissa made spaghetti, trying to play it normal. Ryan barely touched his plate. When I stood to put my dish in the sink, his chair scraped back suddenly. For a split second, I thought he was going to come at me. But instead, he just walked out of the kitchen and slammed his bedroom door so hard, a picture frame fell off the wall. 2 days later, the real explosion came. Melissa and I were in the living room when Ryan stormed in, eyes wild. He was holding that baseball photo, the one I'd left with him in jail. The glass was shattered, the frame bent. He threw it on the floor in front of me. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he shouted. His voice cracked, but the rage was real. "You left me in there. You let me rot like trash while everyone laughed at me. Do you know what it was like in there?" Melissa tried to step between us, but Ryan shoved past her. His finger jabbed inches from my face. "You wanted to prove a point, right? Congratulations. Everyone knows my stepdad abandoned me. You ruined me." I didn't move. Didn't flinch. I just said, calmly, "No, Ryan, you ruined yourself. I just stopped cleaning up the mess." That sent him over the edge. He grabbed the TV remote off the coffee table and hurled it at the wall. Plastic exploded into shards. Melissa screamed, grabbed his arm, but he yanked free and stormed out the front door. He didn't come back that night. Or the next. Melissa cried herself to sleep, convinced something had happened to him. I stayed awake in the dark, listening to the silence of a house that finally felt free of chaos. On the third day, Ryan returned. Dirty clothes, hollow eyes, smelling like cigarettes. He dropped his bag by the door and muttered, "I got nowhere else to go." Melissa rushed to hug him. He let her, but his eyes flicked to me over her shoulder. Pure hate. And in that look, I saw it. The war wasn't over. It was just simmering, waiting for the next flashpoint. Ryan didn't last a week back under our roof before the final blow-up. It started small. He stole from Melissa again. Her wedding ring, of all things. Pawned it for a couple $100. When she found the receipt crumpled in his jeans pocket, she broke down in the kitchen, sobbing into her hands. I confronted him that night. He was sitting on the porch, hoodie pulled tight, headphones in. I held up the pawn slip. "You crossed a line," I said. He didn't even look up. It's her fault for leaving it out. Something in me snapped. 3 years of being spit on, shoved aside, treated like a stranger in my own home. It all boiled to the surface. I yanked the headphones off his ears. "You want to blame everyone else for the life you're destroying? Fine, but not under this roof. Not anymore." Melissa rushed out behind me, pleading, "Daniel, please, don't do this." But Ryan stood, squaring up, inches from my face. "What are you going to do, huh? You're not my dad. You never were." That was it. I pointed to the street. "Then go find your real dad, because you're done here." For a moment, I thought he'd swing on me. His fists clenched, his jaw locked. But instead, he spat at my feet, grabbed his bag, and stormed off into the night. Melissa screamed after him, begged him to come back, but he didn't turn around. Not once. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've heard through the grapevine that Ryan bounced between couches, then ended up back in court for violating probation. This time, no bail. Melissa visits him sometimes. I don't. And here's the thing that twists the knife in him. When people ask, Ryan doesn't say Mike's my dad. He doesn't even mention the man. He tells people I'm his stepdad, the one who raised him, the one who let him sit in jail, the one who finally kicked him out. It eats him alive, I think, knowing the man he rejected is the only one who ever really filled the role. That's the revenge, sweet and simple. I didn't have to scream, fight, or destroy. I just gave him exactly what he wanted. Distance. And now he's drowning in it. Melissa and I are surviving. Some nights she cries herself to sleep. Some nights she thanks me for standing firm. I don't know what our future looks like, but I do know this. Ryan may never forgive me, and I'll never forget the sound of his voice the night he realized the truth. When you burn every bridge, don't be surprised when nobody comes to pull you out of the fire.